This video will go into the details of how the virtual mixer lays out, how it compares to a traditional analog or digital mixer you're used to, and what else Software Audio Console is able to do out of the box. The full mixer works much the same way as an analog mixer does. Each channel's input is assigned to one or more outputs and or subgroups, and those outputs feed your speakers. The default layout for the mixer is inputs 1 through 72, which are marked with an I at the top and a yellow fader knob. Moving to the right of that, you have returns 1 through 6, which is marked with an R and a blue fader knob. You then have outputs 1 through 8, marked with an O and red fader knobs, and outputs 9 through 24, marked with a pink fader knob. 9 through 24 are not typically physical outputs, but more similar to a subgroup that you'd find on a traditional console. They're only assignable to outputs 1 through 8. Now, a 72-channel console with another 24 output faders after that is not going to fit on anyone's computer screen, certainly not the one on my laptop here. So there's a couple different ways that we can move around. One, we can select the first input, return, or output channel just by selecting the boxes up top. The other option is we can rearrange the order of our channels. For the example of this video, I'm going to make a very simple mixer that only has 6 input channels, 1 subgroup, and 1 output. To start, I'm going to have microphones set up on channels 1 through 4, and a subgroup next to that, 2 stereo channels, and my output next to that. To start, I'm going to grab a subgroup, in this case output number 9, select it on top, and then while holding the shift key, I'm going to select input 5 to move it on the other side of that. We'll do the same thing for output 1 and move it on the other side of 7 to have my channels in order. Once again, control and click will allow me to make some quick labels on here so we have any idea what's going on. Now it's time to assign what these inputs actually do. Clicking on the IA will take us to the input and attenuation section on our Zoom mixer to the left. If I click on input source, this being a microphone will be a mono device, we'll pick number 1. Most audio sound cards, Pro Audio sound cards, are going to be labeled in pairs. It will be device 1 left and right, device 2 left and right, which will correspond to numbers on your preamps. Again, this being my laptop, I don't have nearly as many of the audio inputs and outputs you'll have on a traditional Software Audio Console rig. I only have my stereo microphone input on this laptop. So for this example, I'm going to pick device 1 left, which is the left channel of my microphone. Software Audio Console will automatically assign it as a mono device, and will continue the same way. Channel 2 is device number 1 right, 3 would be device 2 left, and 4 would be device 2 right. Again, it's already selected mono for each of these channels. For stereo sources like a CD player, MP3 player, and others, I can actually select a stereo pair of panels, in this case 5 and 6, and I'll choose 7 and 8 as an MP3 player input. These will actually allow me to do stereo the entire way, and as I'm selecting these, the star identifies which inputs are already being used somewhere in the project. With a stereo channel, you don't actually need to use 2 faders to control it, but it's actually combined the whole way. Not only does it say stereo, but the stereo effects will be applied on each of the EQ and dynamic and effects processing as well. The auxiliary outputs and assignments will be there too, and this stereo will be outputted all the way to the main output as you continue across. That takes care of all the inputs in our project. We'll now move over to assignments. By default, all the input channels are actually assigned to output 1, which is our main. For this example, I'm actually going to assign these microphones to our subgroup, which is output 9, my microphone mix. What I can do here is grab channels 1 through 4 and assign it to output 9. Subgroups, which again are outputs 9 through 24, have 2 options. The default is group latch. What group latch does is any microphones or any channels that are assigned to the output that is set on group latch will have their faders tied to the fader of the subgroup. Additionally, the mute and the solo buttons will be attached as well. No audio actually goes through the subgroup, so as you'll recall here, our assignments still have these microphones going out to the main. Each of the microphones that are assigned, or the channels that are assigned within this subgroup, are easily controllable independently and can be adjusted at any time. And if you need to adjust just the fader without controlling the assigned channels, you can hold down the Alt key and slide the fader accordingly. The other option for the outputs 9 through 4 are more of a traditional subgroup. If I assign this to master 1, everything going from these channels into my output 9 will then be forwarded out to main output 1. If you have multiple outputs, let's say you have side fills or subwoofers, you can actually assign it to multiple masters at the same time just by checking them all off. Now again, since these are going to my submix, I don't want them to also go out to the main output. So I'll grab these faders and I'll deselect output 1 and only have them assigned to my subgroup. Making our way across, we'll take a look at the main output as well. By default, the first main output is assigned to channels 1 and 2, which is device 1. Again, on my laptop I don't have a true audio card, but this is going to my main output. Since I now have a signal path with inputs going all the way out to outputs, I can right click on the live light and actually go live. If I turn up the volume on my main output right now, I'll get some horrendous feedback on my laptop, so I won't do it. But this gives us the basics of inputs, outputs, and assignments, and the overall signal flow within Software Audio Console.